morning, everybody. I toast to you and all you do. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. I hope you are enjoying the end of July and your summer and everything is going amazing. We have August coming up, and on August 1st is the full moon. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I do want to make a small public service announcement about the blue moon. So I've already started to see the buzz coming up about this blue moon that's coming up in August. And I know I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. This is not a true blue moon. It is, yes, 2 moons in the month of August. However, the blue moon is not related to the Gregorian calendar or our modern calendar. It is related to the solar calendar. So in a year that has, okay, so normally there are 12 full moons in the year. There are 3 in each season. However, it's like every 3.5 years, we have an extra moon. So there are technically 13 moons from solar solstice to solar solstice. You can pick one, it doesn't matter. But in that year, there will be 13 full moons instead of 12. So when that happens, the extra moon is counted as the true blue moon, and it is the 3rd full moon in a season that has 4 full moons. If we look at this year from the equinox, or from the summer solstice to the spring or September equinox, there are only 3 full moons. There's the one that happened last, there's this one on the 1st, and then there's one on the 30th, and then there's not another full moon until after the equinox. So it's only 3 full moons. So it's not technically a blue moon, it is just 2 moons in August. And I have had some people argue that because in our modern tradition we give that credence to that energy, like modern people's, because we're told that is that. And I have tried, I have tried for many, many years to reconcile that. But quite frankly, the older I get and the more practice I get, the reason that the blue moon has power is because there's 13 full moons in that solar year. And it has nothing to do with our Gregorian calendar, and it has nothing to do with the fact that in the 30s, a scientist misinterpreted the Farmer's Almanac and wrote an article that has thus been redacted. At least, like if you go to Space and Time magazine and you search their records, they say that I don't remember his name, I know it was in the 30s, wrote an article, he was wrong, he wrote this thing, and now we call it this. And because it became popularized by normal people who just took the information as fact and were like, this is amazing, I love this, go. But that's only been since the 30s, so it's only been about 100 years. They've been celebrating the blue moon, the true blue moon, for tens of thousands of years, long before our modern calendar. And I feel like this new energy, this modern thing, is just like a drop in the bucket in the energy. It's like a little pebble that got dropped over here, and it's creating a little bit of waves, but the reality of it is that it's not a blue moon. There's no magical energy. There's no magical energy in our modern calendar. It was created by a very smart monk in the Catholic Church who was a great mathematician. He was very, very smart. I'm surprised he worked for the church. I imagine that's how he continued to do his work in that time period, because science was really not a go-to thing back then. A lot of times it was considered as heresy. But anyway, so super smart guy, made a calendar that works, that's not religiously based, that can be used all around the world by all cultures as a way for us to communicate. It's like a mathematical thing. anyways, so this blue moon on the 30th, it'll be amazing. It is a super moon. This one on the 1st is a super moon also, but we have, it's just another moon. So with that said, and now that pesky fly is not trying to get my coffee, let's talk about this moon on August 1st. So the full moon happens on August 1st at, oh, I said the fly went away and then of course it comes right back. Anyway, so the full moon happens on August 1st at 12:31 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it will be about noon here in the United States, give or take an hour or two in either direction depending on where you live. And it is kind of, I feel like it's not as crazy as last month's. As that dark moon that we just had. There's not as many things going on, and a lot of those things carry over, but there's a lot of squares, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of retrogrades going on right now. So you could be feeling a lot of anxiety, you could be feeling really stressed out about the energy that's coming up right now. I know that pretty much everybody that I talk to, even like normal, not spiritual people, are like, wow, it's really stressful. I'm really, questioning what I do every day, my routines, how I'm acting, how I'm behaving. And then on top of all of that, we have all of these crazy information coming out in every direction. Even though our news media isn't necessarily wanting to highlight all of these things, the beautiful thing about the internet and the revolution that it's really creating is that information is still getting out there. Just, crazy, interesting things going on all over the world. And we're really able to see those things. We're able to see them in real time. We're able to look back and rewatch them. Just crazy things. Lots of truths coming to light. We talked a lot about that in the last video, and you're seeing a lot of that happening, and these squares that are coming up in this moon are going to further question all of that information and where you sit with that. I mean, I feel like all of the countries that you look at, if you look all around the world, every country is having these struggles, these top-down or bottom-up, where do they sit in their world, and how are people interacting with each other, and how is the government behaving, and a lot of truths and secrets are coming out to the surface. You have France is almost on the verge of a revolution. Norway just had some stuff go down. We've got crazy things happening in the United States with drugs being found in the White House and not being able to know where they came from. That in itself just brings up a bunch of interesting things to think about. And I'm not trying to get political or anything. I'm just saying we have a lot of this kind of thing happening all over the world. We just had this movie come out that's about trafficking people, human trafficking, and it is revealing a lot of truths that people don't want to talk about. It's being very actually shunned by a lot of famous people, about big media, Netflix and Hulu and all of these channels won't pick it up from what I am understanding, and maybe a little pressure will change that, but we have crazy information coming to light. Go out and learn. Oh, just like this is that moment where they're just like, here you go. And if you open up anything, you're getting these crazy truths that are coming to us about the food that we're eating, about our governments, about our communities, our neighborhoods, our families, our friends. Just this information is coming up all over the place. I also talk to a lot of people who are saying feelings from the past are really rising up to the top. There's a lot of bubbling, surfacing emotions, so things that you haven't dealt with. And I feel like we're seeing that all over the place. And feeling that, I know personally I'm feeling that. There's a lot of bubbling to the surface. Anyways, excuse me. So let's talk about what's in retrograde, just so that we can keep that in our brain as we kind of move forward. So we have Pluto still in retrograde, still kind of sitting back there at 28 degrees in Capricorn, so it's right on that. And it's really, as I mentioned, all of these secrets coming out this is, and because it's in Capricorn, it has a lot to do with our government, your work, your structure. And so you gotta, this is the visualization I get with Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn specifically. It's like a mountain goat that is backtracking on the path that they just took to make sure that it is safe to travel for everybody. You know, the leader of the herd of mountain goats. And it's going up this rocky mountain, and it went up the side of the cliff, and now it's coming back down, hence the retrograde, and it's rechecking all of those steps before it brings the whole herd up the side of the mountain. Now, I don't know if this is actually how mountain goats work, with the whole herd leading, whatever. I don't know if that's how that works. So we're just here for visualization purposes. So it's that mountain goat, and he's coming back down the track and testing, and oh, he steps on this and that rock fumbles. But not only does he realize that path, but he knocks the rocks down and creates a stable path. And if that path washes away, he takes higher ground and finds a new path that is stable. And so this Pluto retrograde into Capricorn is really, that's so I feel like it's doing. So it's coming across that path and really testing all of those steps. Like, is this the right? Is this sturdy? Is this what we should be doing? Is this based on fact? Hard, concrete fact. That's what hence the Rocky Mountain wall. This is hard facts. This isn't necessarily emotions. This is more about real, concrete, physical, like not necessarily physical, but these are things that really do affect our physical world. This is the path that we're walking on. And is it sturdy? So then we have Saturn retrograde, which Saturn retrograde, Saturn is of our community. It is of our interactions with other people. It is that like wise, noble leader that's always reminding us of our karmatic justice and how our interactions affect other people and how other people's, that interaction. And as it goes into retrograde, it really asks you to think about how your actions and your thoughts are aligning with how you're behaving in the community. So sometimes we think something, we say something different, and then we do something even different. And in that disconnect, we really aren't living up to our potential. We're not being the best person we can be. We're not being the best part of society. We're not setting a good foot forward. So the Saturn retrograde really makes you start to question, what am I doing every day, and how is that aligning with my thoughts and my words? And so hence why I said we have a lot of people questioning their daily routine. I'm really bored lately. Why am I really bored all the time? Or I'm really stressed out, or I'm really whatever, or every day I do these same things. Or vice versa, I have no pattern, no structure, no every day I do this. I'm waiting for the kids to go back to school so that I can set a schedule and get back on some kind of routine. That's the goal. It's probably not going to happen because I'm just not that kind of person. I mean, I guess I have some routines, but really a lot of questions about that. Like, how is my daily activities and my actions matching what I'm saying and what I'm thinking, and how is that all aligning, and how is that, and what ripple is that creating in this world where I'm interacting with all of these other people? So then we have Neptune retrograde, which Neptune retrograde can highlight your delusions. Neptune is the higher perspective. It is our connection to the divine. It is this great, like, again, higher perspective, and seeing the world from this godly view, feeling this energy, getting that hindsight. And so as it's in retrograde, sometimes it does its push by really highlighting your delusions, your illusions, your blinders, the rosy colored glasses that you wear. And it does run the risk of kind of getting caught in that and being consumed by that. So it is a reminder to take a moment to step back and to really think about, what blinders am I wearing? How am I seeing this situation? And is this really reality? And because of the way that it kind of communicates, it's not like Pluto retrograde, like I said, where we have this visualization with testing these things. Neptune is more like, let me overpower my energies in you so that you can see where you are blinding yourself to reality, I guess is kind of a way to say that. So then we have Venus in retrograde. And Venus in retrograde, if you are not in a stable place financially and emotionally in relationships, this can be kind of rocky. This is that moment of like really questioning and analyzing and thinking about your connections and your financial situation. Venus is of this fertility, and fertility is both in love and money. And so as we begin to think about that, we think about that prosperous energy. Where are we having challenges? And if you are in a place where you have superficial relationships or you are not making wise financial choices, anytime Venus goes into retrograde, it kind of shakes that up and it asks you that question of, is this stable? Is this pure? Because that's the other part of Venus, is this pure, unconditional love? It is not love with rules and boundaries, just like it's not money, magic money that just washes away. We're talking about real, concrete. We're really talking about this physical. We're in summertime, that has a lot to do with it also. But anyways, so Venus is really, it can be kind of unstabling for people who are not in secure relationships, people who are in superficial relationships, people who are not in a healthy place financially. So if you find a lot of stress and a lot of questions being brought up about that, like maybe you go to buy that Starbucks, and as you're standing there, there's a really long line in front of you, and you're like, is it really worth it for me to stand in line for this $7 coffee? And it's not. I mean, your time is worth money. That line is really long. The coffee's not worth $7, and you're really, you could put that money into a jar, and if every time you were like, I'm going to go to Starbucks, you're like, nope, I'm taking that $7 and I'm putting it in this jar. Think about how much money would be in that jar at the end of the month. I mean, my brother has Starbucks probably every day, and I'm constantly on him about, if you took that money and you put it somewhere else, you would not only feel better because you're not drinking that crazy giant coffee every day full of sugar and caffeine and fakeness, and you'd be saving this money. So is that the wise financial choice? So you might find really simple things like that long line at Starbucks, or maybe you're trying to run your card on an online purchase and it's just not going through, or your PayPal's not working. Little things like that might be happening, and that's making you question your financial choices. Is this the right financial choice to be making? Simultaneously, on the other side of that, with the relationship thing, if you're in superficial relationships, when Venus goes into retrograde, it's really going to say, like, hey, is this a pure relationship? Is this relationship mutually beneficial to everybody? And kind of ask those questions. And sometimes it's hard to let go of relationships when they're not mutually beneficial. This also will bring up old relationships. I often see in Venus retrograde people be like, oh, I got back with my ex-boyfriend, or I started talking to my old friend, or I did these things, and bringing these people back into your life that are not necessarily positive for you, because this retrograde is making you think about these relationships. It says you need to learn something still from this. It doesn't mean to bring that destructive person or that ex back into your life. It wants you to think, like, what value was I getting out of this relationship? Where can I find that in somewhere else? Was that actually of value? Are these things that I really needed and wanted? And if you find yourself really thinking like, oh, I'm going to text my ex, don't do it. Think about what it is that you're missing from that relationship and how you can find that more gooder in a more better place. We teach our kids really good grammar. We're really good. We try really hard, at least. But both my husband and I say more gooder. we just can't let that go, I guess. So then we have, these are all in conjunction, but they're all also in retrograde. We have Chiron, Eris, and the North Node. And we'll get more into that, but with all of these in retrograde, it is really shaking that foundation of your reality. Really. And we're going to talk more about that and when we get to those planets here in a minute, but they're also in retrograde. So some of the aspects that have carried, actually, hold that thought. For you, it'll be 2 seconds. I got to go move my water because I'm watering in the garden, so 2 seconds. Okay, see, to you, less than 2 seconds. Anyway, so some of the things that carried over from last month are, one, we have the finger of fate with Venus and Neptune and Pluto. We have Saturn opposite to Venus and Pallas and Mars conjunction. Mercury has entered into that, so that's a little bit new. And then we still have Chiron, Eris, and the South Node or the North Node conjunct. But they've all moved into retrograde, so that'll kind of change that a little bit. And so we're going to go over those a little bit just because of the importance of them and in case you didn't watch the last video. So we'll start with the finger of fate just because this is such a... 2 of the planets are in retrograde. Actually, all 3 of the planets are in retrograde. So this is a very big moment. So this is about fundamental change, very passionate fundamental change. When we have Pluto quincunx to Venus, it's passional emotional releases, fundamental change, especially when it comes to our finances and our romance. So all of those things I was talking about, Venus in retrograde, Pluto is bringing up all of the dirty little secrets, all of the things, the deep, dark passions. Like, is this really how I feel? Is this really what I want? And so then we have Neptune quincunx to Venus, which is this connection to the divine, this eternal source of love. And so, I don't know if my microphone, I got a new microphone and I did all of the things and I'm trying. Then I read a thing that says if you're too loud, YouTube turns you down. We'll get it figured out. I'm gonna have to hire somebody. Anyways, so this divine energy from Neptune being quincunx to Venus really is like this overflowing source of eternal divine love. That divine love. I don't know what else to say about that. It is this creative inspiration, and it's really making you question, because they're all in retrograde, it's making you question, do you have blinders on to what you think is unconditional love, or are you really experiencing unconditional love? Have you ever experienced unconditional love? You know, it's taken me a long time to really understand what that is and where I actually get it from. And it's not the sources that I thought it, there's weird things like that. And that a lot of that is going to be coming up. You're going to be feeling a lot of that. Like, is this relationship healthy? Is it based on a healthy narrative? Is it based on healthy, like, is what I think a healthy relationship is really a healthy relationship? And this finger of fate is really going to bring up a lot of those questions and about how you feel about yourself. Do you hold that eternal self-love? Do you honor yourself? Do you take care of yourself? Do you really show compassion and understanding and nurturing yourself? And can you do that in the relationships with you around you? Are the relationships around you doing that for you? And then with Neptune sextile to Pluto, we are really driven to explore that deeper self. We are driven to take a higher perspective and look really down deep. And that can be a scary place to look. That can be a scary perspective to see yourself from, because that higher perspective, seeing the whole grand picture of things. And with that truth of Pluto is sometimes when we see our life from that higher perspective, If you go into a visualization of this, I'm not saying it'll be this dramatic, but you visualize the way that you see yourself, and then you move up to that higher perspective. And as you move up to that higher perspective, you're going to see that view change. Now, you might see that view change to a reality you don't necessarily like. It might get like, in my brain, I see one of those time-lapse videos of like fruit rotting on the counter or flowers blossoming or something of that nature. And so when you look at that, what is it showing you? And with this finger of fate, it is like a great reminder to act from a place of love and compassion and truth and understanding. And do you hold that for yourself, and do you hold that for other people? And that's kind of, it's like I said, this is a lot going on right now. I mean, we are in a state of evolutionary, spiritual, collective conscious movement. We are having this forward progress. The North and South Node are moving into new signs, and the, oh crud, I can't remember what it's called now. Midhaven, maybe? I don't know. There's another main astrological body that's moving. And so we're having these big changes happening. And throughout these changes, we're seeing a lot of this type of questioning. Are you acting from a place of divine love and kindness and compassion and honesty, good integrity? Like, a lot of that is being called into it. And so this finger of fate is really questioning your integrity, your place with other people, the way that you love yourself and you love others and you let others love you. So that is just so much in itself. And I feel like so many people struggle with love and feelings of love and what is love and what is it to be loved and to love another and what is unconditional love. And it's sad that these are questions that so many people have in our society, when you should just be able to, I feel this unconditional love. You should just be able to do that. So then, whoa, microphone to the face. This is also asking you where your deep passions are coming from. All truths will be revealed. It seems like such a nice thing to say, but then all I can think of is sometimes we don't want to see the truth. And Neptune is really that highlighting factor. Neptune says, here are all of the things that you didn't want to see the truth about and the blinders that you wear. And so love yourself and have compassion as you step into thinking about that thought. Don't just go in like hard. Just have compassion, have patience, really love yourself as you ask questions. Some other questions that this finger brings up is there truth in your feelings? We often have feelings and we don't know where they come from, or we don't know why we have them. I just heard this funny joke about how women have a dream and then they're mad at their husbands because of the dream that they have, and then their husbands have to apologize. So you're thinking about where those feelings are coming from. So if you have that happening in your life, think about where those feelings are coming from. And remember, you can't be mad at somebody for your dreams. Anyways. And are you listening to your true inner self, or are you clouded by external influences? Pluto is really bringing that up. Everywhere that Pluto is involved, it's going to ask that question. Is this coming from outside or inside? And so are your feelings and your influences and the things that, where is that coming from? And just to remember, you are the only person in control of your feelings, regardless of what you want to say or how you want to put that on somebody else. Well, they did this, so I feel this way. You are choosing the way you react. That's something else that's going to come up again throughout this reading. But the only thing you have control over is your reaction to a situation. How do you want to react and how do you want to feel? You make those choices, no matter, regardless of what's happening going on around you. You can go to some of the most horrible places in the world, and I bet you can still find people being happy because they're choosing to find those moments of happiness. Because that's it, you choose. Your reaction is the only thing you can control. So are your reactions being driven by outside influences or internal influences? Are you making these choices because you want to, because you feel this way, because your passions and your love and your everything is driving you to that? Or are you making these choices because somebody else is influencing you and you're going based off of what they're saying? And is that place a place of true love and kindness and compassion? You know, we do have people in our life who act out of pure compassion, and sometimes it doesn't always feel that way, but they are doing it because they love us. And sometimes that's a hard truth we have to see. So let's see, let's just, are these things coming from a place of love? So that's the first thing that carried over, is that finger of fate. The next thing that comes over is we have Venus, Pales, and Mars are still joined, are still conjunct. Mercury has moved into this conjunction, which adds this communication and wit and thought and a lot of thought power to this. But as we talked about before, this trio is moving forward as this very balanced energy that's motivated and wise and compassionate. And it is all of these things we were kind of just talking about, but working together in this ambitious push forward to do the right thing, to do the just thing, to do the noble thing. What would the wise, amazing leader that we all envision in our brain, we're like, oh, this is the perfect king and queen, or whatever leader of the community, this is the perfect tribal, and this is that moving forward. It is shining a valiant light of truth that is noble and full of honor. It is like the shining white knight. I think before I used the example of the Black Knight from A Knight's Tale that comes and makes that makes William a knight and actually knights him. And so it is that leader. It is that energy that is caring and courageous and noble, and it is really encouraging you to step forward. All of this information that's coming up, take a step forward and make those changes. Take that action. Do the right thing. And to be proud of that. Sometimes when we step up to do the right thing, it is shamed or it is looked down upon. I can have this conversation with my kids because they're getting to be teenagers, and I talk a lot about, like, just because it seems cool doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And sometimes when you do the right thing, people are going to look at you and they're going to be mad at you and they're going to be like, oh, that girl did that thing. And you just own that. That's okay. This energy is that. Like, it's okay to do the right thing. It's okay to make the right choice. And you should be making it, and you should be proud of it, and you should just step forward with that energy. As Mercury comes into this, it brings in these deeper thoughts and our urge to communicate our thoughts, which is funny because, I've been super motivated to make this video and the last video and probably the next one. Like, I want to get out and say things. There's part of me that wants to start a whole new channel because I try not to talk politics on this channel. But my passion, aside from my garden and spirituality and learning and growing, is our government. I watch a lot of C-SPAN. I watch a lot of our politicians talking, and I really, really recommend everybody go out and watch them. It's good to hear your politicians in action, and it is revealing a lot of truths. And so I've thought about making another channel, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. But I don't know if that's going to stay after Mercury kind of makes its way through this. We'll see. Now, this conjunction is at opposition to Saturn retrograde, which we are being asked if we are being true to our actions. Again, like I was saying with Saturn, it really does bring on that thoughts, words, actions, community, and how that link, how they all go together, and how what you're doing is in turn affecting those things. And this conjunction, or this opposition with this conjunction, is really asking the question, are you acting out of mob mentality, or are you doing the right thing? Are you acting out of wisdom and kindness and compassion and being that true noble warrior? And again, that is a hard question to answer truthfully for yourself. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm doing these things, and then you're like, oh, I made that choice because I thought in that moment it would be a good choice based on the people who are around me. And then you look back on it and you're like, I probably could have made a better choice. And most of the time it's little things. Sometimes it's really big things. And so you really got to start this opposition is really highlighting that. And as Saturn, it is exact opposition, I think, to, let's see, Saturn is at 5 degrees and Mercury is at 5 degrees. So those two are at exact opposition. And that is really making you question your words and the way that you communicate with the people around you. Are you communicating effectively? Are you communicating your thoughts and ideas effectively with the people around you? Sometimes we think something and then we say it and then it comes out and it's not interpreted that same way. And you have like big collisions that happen, misunderstandings, issues, all of those things. So you have to really think about how you're speaking, and if your words, thoughts, words, actions, are they all together? And are your actions reflecting your higher values? Where are your higher values coming from? You see this chain that we have making, is this, where these retrogrades that are happening right now, this is really what they're doing. And we're going to talk about this again with the next ones. It is just this rattle of shaking your foundation. Like, before we move forward, let's shake all this foundation. Now, one thing I do want to bring up that the astrologer Pam Gregory that I watch was talking about is that, again, on the whole reactions, as your foundation is being shaken, are you reacting out of a place of self-love and courageousness, or are you acting out of fear? Are you acting out of this mob mentality? And as we go through all of these things and your foundation is shaken, you have the choice, you have the free will to respond to these things however you choose to. And so as your foundation is being shaken, as your relationships are being questioned, as your financial choices are being questioned, as all of these things are happening around you, what choice are you making in order to step forward? So when you take that step, are you taking that step out of fear? Are you continuing those bad habits? Are you continuing to, did your foundation got shook? Did you digress back? Put up all those barriers back again, bury yourself under that hole and be like, okay, this is, I guess, where I have to live. Or are you growing? Are you coming out of that shell? Are you taking the lessons that you need and moving forward and learning? And only you can make that choice. You have to make that choice all by yourself. No one can do. I can't jump through the screen and say, do this now. It doesn't work that way. I can't. Sometimes I talk to people and I really do want to I want to shake them and be like, you have to snap out of this. You're creating this reality because your thoughts and your words and your actions are aligned in this way. Even though you want to go over here, you are so focused on this that this is what you're creating. You create your reality with your thoughts, words, and actions. And, some people are like, oh, that's really mystical and magical, but that's not the truth, but it really is. If every day you got up and said, this is a wonderful day, I'm going to make the best things happen, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to focus on the things I need to get done, even though I don't like going to work or even though I don't like this task, I have to get it done so that I can be successful, let's do this. You would be far more successful. You would be more likely to show up 10 minutes early to work, stay 5 minutes later. If you stay 15 minutes a day, that adds up to 15 minutes a day is an hour and 15 minutes extra on your time clock. If you do this every week, you end up making a lot more money. I was reading a statistic. It says if you put in 10% more, you make 30% more back. What a crazy return on your 10%. If you go in positive, you're way more likely to put in that 10%. Then you're going to create that reality that you want because you're putting in that effort. If every morning you wake up and you say, oh, I hate my job, I hate my life, I hate everything that's going on around me, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm going to hit the snooze button, I'm going to go back to sleep 10 times, then I'm going to be late for work because I hit snooze 100 times because I didn't want to go there. Then you're creating this reality where you're late for work all the time, your boss doesn't want to ever give you a promotion, you end up getting fired because somebody else does a better job than you and they don't want to pay you for your slack. This is the reality that you're creating because of that thought, that snooze button. What did you choose? Your thoughts, your words, your actions, how did they align and what reality are you creating? Anybody can be successful. They just have to step up and take that. They have to do it. You can't. I heard a great quote. Happiness is something we all have a right to, but it doesn't mean that everybody's happy because they're not making the choices to be happy. So what choices are you making? All right. See, all of this Mercury being involved in all these things just makes me want to like stand on a roof. I want to get a soapbox. I want to go stand in the park. They even have an event going on downtown in the park right now. I want to go stand in the park on a lot and just talk. This is what's happening. See how many people listen. All right, so the next big conjunction that we have is Chiron, Eris, and the North Node are all conjunct. Eris is at opposition to Ceres, which is an interesting opposition because Ceres is the grain mother goddess and Eris is the justice warrior. So it's like a softening of this energy a little bit. Like I'm going to provide you with the resources that you need as we tear down the foundation and make you really see the truth of what needs to happen. Because the Uranus in North Node retrograde really is that like shaking the foundation and throwing that golden apple down on the table, and it's such a heavy apple that it just shakes the whole table and everybody stops and looks like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And well, here's a big dish of reality of the injustices that are happening, and we the people need to stand up and say, hey, this isn't okay. You know, we need to protect our children, we need to protect ourselves, we need to protect our communities, we need to protect our food, we need to protect, you know, our just, okay, I'm going to try not to get any more political. I told you, I've just been having this urge, crazy urge. Let's move away from that. So Chiron in retrograde really pushes us to look deep within and think about our long-term damages. I'm talking generational damages here, and we can all hear about these. It's a big thing now. You hear it from mother to child to father to child to however that chain goes, but we see these generational traumas happening, and this is Chiron in retrograde is like, let's stop. Let's heal. Let's not have the generational trauma from your past go on to the next generation. And not in a way that's like, let's cover it up and pretend like it never happened, but in a way of like, let's deeply understand why these traumas are happening and let's heal that and let's teach from that and let's learn from that lesson. This is the teacher that says, hey, let's look at everything that led up to the Holocaust so that we never let that happen again. What are the big things that led up to that so that we can stop that? And then really taking accountability for that and saying, okay, let's heal. Maybe not using the Holocaust as an example because it's terrifying, but it is real. Like, this really happened, and we really need to learn from these lessons, and we need to see how war begets more war. Hate breeds more hate. Yes, there are beautiful things that come out of it, and people rise above, and you have these beautiful stories, but in the grand scheme of things, bitterness breeds more bitter, hate breeds more hate, anger breeds more anger. If we don't change that and use that and learn from that, we are not going to heal from that. Anger can be very productive. The situation makes me angry, so I'm going to make a change. If you just get angry and yell and scream and that's all you want to do with it, then that's all it's going to do. But if you say, this situation makes me angry, we need to make a change. Pedophilia makes me angry. I point that out every chance I get. There is no reason that we should hush or put under the rug or pretend like it doesn't happen. Nope, this happens every day. You know someone, probably more than one someone, who was or is being abused in that way. And that's a disgusting, horrible fact that we need to face as a society and we need to deal with. And that is very much what Chiron is calling on. Chiron is pointing those things out at a societal level, at an independent level, at a personal level, on all these different, really questioning that, really making you think about your generational traumas. You know, alcohol has a lot to do with generational traumas in my family. And as we look over it and you look back upon it, you see how this addiction really hindered the family and has created some devastating consequences. And my husband and I are sober. We don't drink alcohol. We both have agreed that this isn't something we want to put our children through. And it was a hard life choice to make on a lot of different levels because, you know, we were partiers, we were drinkers, we came from that. My husband worked at a brewery. This was the family job. Like this was our life. We were consumed by alcohol. And then we had 2 kids. And I had a moment where I was just like, oh my goodness. I was telling a joke about how when I was 5, I was pouring beers at the Mountain Tap bar, pouring beers, making tip money, taking pictures back to the bartender, like I was at the bar working, and then I have this 4-year-old. And here we are in this bar. And I was like, wow, we are recreating this generational trauma. And that was it. That was my moment of like, my kids aren't going to be at the brewery anymore. We can't be here anymore. We can't be a part of this anymore. We have to let our kids grow up without this. We don't want them to also be addicts. We have to stop the generational trauma. And so Chiron retrograde is really calling out to that. And with it being conjunct to Eris retrograde is like, I threw the apple and you're not listening, so now I'm going to shake the table and I'm going to rattle your cage. I am going to point this out. I am not going to be quiet. I am not going to step aside. I am not going to allow you to continue to see this. Now, again, we all have the choice. You have free will. You can see these things. You can hear these calls. You can be called upon to heal and to begin that process. And you can lead a horse to water and it's not going to drink. You can't force it to. And it's the same thing with these energies. As we are being presented with these retrogrades in conjunction like this, and we are really strongly being called to evaluate our situation, to look back at past traumas, to look at our foundation, what are we building our future off of? You can choose to just continue to build on top of the crumbled mess that you've been left with. Or you can clean up the pieces, you can learn what you need to learn, you can take the pieces that are still good and begin to build a stronger, better future foundation. And that's really what you're being called to do. And you have the free will not to. You can always be like, that's nice, I'm just going to live in my pile of rubble, like I said, and what you keep just like this. But you have to make that choice. You're being called to make that choice. And everything is being laid out onto the shaking table. It's just a really funny, like I have this table that I'm set up in front of, and I just want to shake the table. I don't think it's a good idea because it's glass, but that's really what is happening. So it is a great rattling moment with deep truths being called out. Like all truths are going to be revealed because Eris is, I'm pretty sure, Pluto is square to this happening. So Pluto is like, as everything is being shaken and rattled, Pluto's down underneath throwing everything up. Like, oh, you thought this was a secret? Let me put it on the table. Oh, you thought you were never going to think about this moment again? Let's put it on the table. You thought you were done dealing with these feelings? Nope, here they are in this little box that you tucked away. Now you have to deal with them. And it's like heal. Like it's It's like that good, you go to the emergency room because you got like a bad road rash, and then they scrub it, or they squeeze it, or they do that thing to like really clean it out. Like that's what's happening right now. Like, just squeezing it out. And then you're being called upon to do the right thing. So all of these big things are really hard. I feel like this is a lot of hard angles. This is a lot of dealing with things that we normally sweep under the rug or say, I'll deal with that later, or let's just not think about that. Let's put on some blinders and let's focus on this thing over here. And all of that is being revealed now. We do have some more gentle angles. So we have Venus trine to the North Node. And so this is really connecting love, softness. It's bringing in that eternal, pure, unconditional love. And it is just this reminder that we have to be vulnerable in order to heal. We have to step into these vulnerable places and we have to deal with that, and it's okay. The energy, the cosmos, the goddess, the gods, the love, however you see that, Jesus, however you see it, is there for you to help you as you move through these transitions. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to let those feelings out and just be you and heal. We have Mars trine to Jupiter, which is really good luck. It is like, I know this is a rough time, but we are expanding with this good energy, and just step forward with that right foot and you're going to do the right thing and you're going to succeed. I kind of feel like, so you have the free will to choose to live in your rubble and to just kind of sit underneath that, or to build something new. And this trine with Mars and Jupiter is really that, like, hey, if you do the right thing, I'm telling you, you will succeed. You will find the success you are seeking on the other side if you sweep up that pile and you clean up the mess and you build a better foundation. It's there for you. And that Venus trine is also kind of saying the same thing. We have Jupiter at opposition to Uranus, which is going to bring in some bold new opportunities, a big surprise. Something outside the norm is going to come in and give you this boost of creative, bountiful energy, that burst of good luck. And so that is kind of softening these things. On the other side of that, we have another interesting square going on with the moon square to Jupiter, square to the sun. So the Jupiter square moon is challenging your beliefs and your underlying motivations. It is really asking you, why are you putting this out there? What is motivating you to do these things? So again, it's challenging you, what's motivating you to stay under your rock, or what's motivating you to grow? And based upon those answers, I have chosen in my life to be a survivor. And through everything that happened over and over again, I made the conscious choice, no matter how crappy of a situation I got myself into. I mean, at one point I decided that I didn't need to go home anymore, and I was just going to live with the homeless people downtown. The tramps, like the homeless people that travel around from town to town where it's warm and whatnot, and they were in their early 20s, and they were really bad people. I mean, they were nice to me, and thank the gods that nothing bad ever happened to me, and that, my parents were there to come down and say, like, literally my stepdad showed up after 2 days and was like, let's go. He didn't even give me the option, and I was hungry, and I didn't want to sleep outside again. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go home. But I chose to be the survivor, to step up and deal with the consequences and move forward and do the right thing. And thank God I did, because while I was still grounded and in a lot of trouble at home, my mom brought me the newspaper, and on the cover of the newspaper were 5 of the people that I had been hanging out with, and they were going to jail for beating a homeless man to death. And that gave me goosebumps just to say, and I'm not making this up, like this really happened, and it was like a really terrifying moment, like a realization moment, like, oh my goodness. If I had chosen to continue to be in that situation and play the victim and say, oh, my parents don't care about me and I just want to be here and I'm going to be the victim and then I would have become a true victim in a sense where I can't come back from. You know, hanging out with some homeless people and doing whatever and partying and stuff like that, that's, you know, you can come back from that. So I tested those waters, came back. I could have run from my stepdad. I could have got up and been like, oh my God, stop him. I'm out of here. I can't go back to that. I could have made that choice. And thank the gods that I did not. But as we go through all of these conjunctions and oppositions and squares that we're having right now, it's like reminding us and questioning us. Are you going to continue to be a victim? Are you going to live out of fear and make those choices? Or are you going to move forward with love and compassion for yourself and heal? And when presented with those two choices, I will always choose to be successful. I will always choose to heal. I will always choose, it might not always feel amazing in that moment, taking accountability for my actions and saying, okay, now what am I going to do to do better? But I'm just that type of person. Otherwise, I would have been dead a long time ago. I mean, like I said, that wasn't even the first time I made a really silly decision. At 11 years old, I decided to walk from my mom's house to my dad's house. And for those of you who are familiar with Colorado, I walked from a nice neighborhood in Lakewood on the west side of town. I walked down First Avenue and then Colfax Avenue, 14th Avenue, which run through some very bad neighborhoods. I walked down Capitol Hill, Colfax, all the way to East Colfax. Really dangerous neighborhoods. I mean, this is where the street workers and the drug dealers and all of those things kind of hang out. Like, it's not a safe place. I don't like to take my children out to Colfax. I'm like, okay, hold my hand, stand next to me. This is not necessarily a safe place. And I made that walk at 11 years old. I made a really, really silly choice. Now, even on that walk, some guy approached us, and he was kind of been following us for a block or two. We were right next to the Ramada Inn on Colfax and Ogden. I walked inside. I found the first normal-looking person I could find, and I just started talking to them like I knew them. And I just instinctually had this moment where, like, you need to do something, otherwise you're about to get kidnapped. I made bad choices sometimes. But all of these squares we're going through right now are really challenging those decisions. They're really challenging our places. And are you moving forward in a healing place? So Sun square to Jupiter is just a reminder that this is going to be a slow process. Normally people talk about how, oh, this is like you're expanding too quickly. And in this chart specifically, I just see this as a reminder like, hey, slow down. This isn't going to be like snap on August 1st. We have this grand enlightenment. We move upon spiritually. Oh, it's not how it's going to be. This is a slow process. This is something that you have to take one step at a time. You have to really work through each one of these things. I don't think that any person has just one trauma they're working through. We normally have a whole handful of traumas we're working through. And as you think about those choices, you know, your generational traumas and your personal traumas and your community traumas and just so many areas that we have challenges coming from, we are reminded to just take this one step at a time. We will get through this. Everything's going to be okay. But you should probably take the choice to stop being a victim. You need to start listening to your own internal self. You need to hear that divine love, that unconditional love, and you need to heal. You need to let yourself heal. Be vulnerable. Let's see. We have Venus square to Uranus, which is like a big stop the stagnation. Uranus brings exciting things up to the surface. It's like a bubbling geyser that just spews something everywhere. And with Venus, this is going to have to do with our love and finances, and we have Venus being involved in all these truths being revealed. And so you might have a big explosion of poo all over everything where you're like, dang, I need new friends. You also might have the other side of that where you have this big explosion where you're like, wow, I went to this thing and I made 100 new friends, and now I have this whole new community. And so you're going to have a lot of that. Just a big, big bang. Big bang. You might get a new job. You might have your job not be so good and you need to get a new job. It is also a reminder that, so when we think about that geyser, if we were to go out and we were to put our hands around the geyser and be like, I'm going to control where this geyser sprays and where this energy is going, you're not. You're going to have geyser in your face. You're going to have a mess everywhere. And you're not going to catch any of this energy. It's just going to spew through your fingertips. If you step back and you take a chill pill and you just open up your hands and you allow that energy to come to you, then you will receive it, and it will be this beautiful thing. And you'll be able to walk away like, I had this grand change. My foundation was rattled and I moved forward, and now I'm walking away with this really good energy to like water my garden with, to water my foundation, to build this new beginning. So with the moon being in Aquarius, it really is this like social movement time. So again, with that Saturn retrograde and then the Aquarius moon, are our personal actions and thoughts and minds, is all of that really lining up with our community in a way that we want it to? Are we presenting the self that we need to? So really, I think the biggest takeaway of this whole thing is, as our foundation is being rattled and as we are being challenged and as we are being shown truths that we don't necessarily want to see, especially those of like, we've created our blinders. Like, okay, so let's take all of that off and let's see reality as reality. We are being called to act with grace and truth and kindness and wisdom, and to really move forward to heal. And so as we come through this very challenging astrological energy, we are really being asked to see the truth, hear the truth, speak the truth. Oh, I just got that: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, except for it's like truth instead of evil. Like, we need to see, we are being shown the truth, we are hearing the truth, now we need to speak the truth. And that truth needs to come from yourself. It needs to come from deep within you. What is the reality that you're trying to create? And like I said, your thoughts manifest to words, manifest to actions, creating your reality. And what reality are you creating? And so I could go on and on and on about this, but we're already an hour strong. So if you have stayed this long, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you take away something amazing from this. And I hope that it helps you to heal. I really encourage everyone to reflect on, are you acting from compassion and kindness and love for yourself with good integrity? And are your actions aligning with your words? And are you moving forward with this amazing new self that you are, it is there. And if you step up and you take it, you will achieve it. You will find that success. No matter what it is in, no matter where it is, if you step up and you say, I'm going to do this, you will do this. So, with all of that being said, I toast to all of you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I should probably start saying that at the beginning of the video. I'm just so bad at it. Anyways, I hope everybody has a great day. Blessings to you on this beautiful full supermoon. And if you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. I'm also doing readings and stuff like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can also let me know. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. Many blessings.